Just wanted to share my experiences with Kundalini energy rising in the body, just for anyone who might be going through the same thing, wondering what's going on. Um, Everybody's experiences are going to be different, so please keep in mind that this is just my personal experience, and your mileage may vary. So for me, it started with feeling these small electrical impulses tingling through my body, on and off, starting in about 2012. And it wasn't until I actually began doing some specific breathing disciplines that it started to intensify. And I started those disciplines in 2012, but then I left them and then I came back to them in 2014. So in the last 2 years, it's been really intense, but more so in the last 3 months than ever before. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. So far, my experience has been that when I do the breathing disciplines, I end up with little circles of sweat exactly in the same place every time, all down the front of my shirt and the back as well. And they're over the major and minor chakras. Um, and I'll show you a picture in a second, but basically the biggest circle of sweat is over the solar plex area, and it is actually a circle. And then there are other minor chakras around there, just energy centers where the energy pours through and out the body, actually transforms the energy, filters frequency. But those minor chakras are also covered in little sweat circles. So I thought it's really interesting. There are also energy centers over the nipples and right below the nipples, and also in the main area of the stomach, on either side. And so you can see this picture right here. It shows the little circle over where the solar plex area was when I was wearing the shirt. And you can see around it there are also other little circles of sweat. And this happens every time. The circles are always in the same place, and I can physically feel the energy moving through my body and transforming in those areas. It's not It doesn't really feel like the energy is radiating out of me through those areas. What it feels like is kind of like a churning inside, like the energy is kind of like I guess in a washing machine or something. I can't really explain it. There's no physical word to share the comparison of what that feels like. Um, so also the really interesting thing for me is that the energy that travels through my body when I do these disciplines travels in a very specific path every time, and I know it does because I can see it. It actually turns the path that the energy took bright red. So here's a picture where you can see the path of energy that actually follows the liver meridian. It starts underneath the thigh, and it comes all the way around the side of the leg, and then it ends up going towards the top of my foot, which the tops of my feet end up being red and prickly. Basically, what happens is all the blood vessels are being brought to the surface because of the heat. So that's why it turns red. It's not anything scary, or it's not any medical emergency or anything like that. If that happens, hopefully, always consult your doctor. But if you see red lines in these paths, look up the meridian system and see if they correspond. Because for me, it always does. And so this red line, I also see a red line about an inch wide going straight up my spine, and it starts at the tailbone and it goes all the way up to my neck. And that doesn't happen every time. The liver meridian happens every time. And this is just pure conjecture, but what I can gather is that if the energy is going through my body in those paths every single time, then the pathway is probably clear, like more clear than others. So I don't know, but that's just my guess. That's just what I can feel. So at first, when I started doing these breathing disciplines, at first I barely saw any sweat anywhere. I think I went for about, I probably did it maybe 12 or 15 times, and nothing happened. I wasn't sweaty. I was wearing a couple layers of clothing. I was wearing jeans, and nothing. I didn't get really sweaty. So I thought that, that was normal. I didn't know if anything was happening. And as I kept doing it over and over and over, I would say maybe about 20 to 25 times of doing it, I started sweating just a little bit. And at first, I barely saw any sweat around the solar plex area. They were just little spots, like if you were to just like dip your finger in water and then flick it like that. That's what it looked like. Um, After about 6 months, it started becoming a full circle of sweat. And I wasn't doing the disciplines regularly. This was, I believe, 2014. I probably did them, I don't know, maybe twice a week, maybe 3 times a week at best. So it took 6 months. And then I finally started seeing a full circle of sweat. And that's when everything started transforming in my life. What came with that was literally having to face all of my fears, all of my insecurities. Every single issue that I had came to the surface, and I had to deal with it. But I have been doing a lot of work since probably 2009 to clear things from my life and to be complete with them. And so it wasn't wasn't that challenging for me. I can only imagine if things come up for people who haven't done the personal work. It's got to be a nightmare. So anyway, so those little spots of sweat. I'm just now starting to see those little spots of sweat appear at my heart chakra. And it's the same thing. It looks like someone dipped their finger in water and just, threw the water at the shirt, just a little tiny bit. And it's almost like the energy moves through the body and it clears the chakras as it moves up. It's like it can only go so far and it has to clear it. And then when you clear it, it can move up all the way through the body. And I can actually feel it moving in my body. So the physical sensations that I feel are a lot of hot flashes that surge through my body like pulses. And it's not the same kind of hot flash you get when you're sick. The type of hot flash that I feel with this is actually a pulse, and it's kind of like a double pulse. And the best way I can explain it is if I'm talking to somebody and they're in front of me and I feel a pulse, it's like the energy comes from my heart chakra, goes out into my energy field, and the pulse goes around and comes back up, and then it shoots out again. That's the best way I can describe it. And then my body is flushed with this warmth, but it only lasts for a second. It's like flush, done. And I can feel it coming from other people too. I feel the pulse of their energy when they're next to me. It actually comes into my energy field straight from their heart chakra. And it doesn't come into my body, it comes into my energy field. And when it's in my energy field, I can feel it in my body correspond. But it's like a double pulse. It's like it goes both ways. I experienced that really intensely when I was taking one of the communications courses from Landmark Education, and one of the best courses I've ever taken. And the main thing that I got out of it was not what everybody else got out of it. Everybody else got like all these amazing insights and like breakthroughs with people in their life, with their communication and listening. And I mean, I got that too. That's not to say that I didn't get that, but the biggest thing I got from it was being in a room full of people and having only maybe 2 or 3 people that I really, really, really connected with, that I was actually able to communicate with them on a physical level that was beyond words. And I was able to know exactly how they were feeling, what they were sharing, what they were holding back, because I felt that pulse of energy, like that connection. And it was a very specific experience. So that's what the hot flashes feel like to me. I hate calling them hot flashes because they're not really hot flashes in that sense. But I feel it all over my body. And I also feel energy radiating out of my chest all the time. Not just in the heart chakra. Like it's a full, like from the neck down to the shoulders, down halfway down my stomach. The energy is just like right here, and it's just pouring out, and it feels really cool. Um, Also, when I do these disciplines, there's a certain hand position that we use, and when I'm done, I can see my hands are red, except for the insides of my palms. And it's really interesting because my hands are really, really hot, but the literal inside of my palm, I don't know if you can see it, the light is not that great in here. The inside of my palm, this part stays flesh colored, and the rest is red. And I can feel the energy flowing through my hands too. Um, I can feel it if I put my hand on my body. I can feel the energy radiating into my body. Also, I've noticed that my body has started to jerk around unexpectedly. Thankfully, not while I'm out in public. I'm just hoping that doesn't happen. Um, I've actually woken up with my hands being forced into different mudras without my conscious awareness. Sometimes it happens when I'm awake. So I'll just be laying there with my hands open, and all of a sudden, this happens, or, this happens. It's very interesting. I've read about that happening to people. Never thought that it would happen to me, but it has. So that is part of it. And oh, another interesting thing is that I never used to be able to touch my finger to my pointer finger. There was something about the electrical wiring of the human body, some kind of block, I don't really know, but the energy was too intense for me to do this for my whole entire life. I'm 35. I know I look like I'm 17, but I'm really 35. So I was never able to do this. It would make me so uncomfortable that if I had to do this for more than a split second, my skin would crawl and I would just have to shake it off. But now I can do this totally fine. Like the electrical system in my body has reset itself in a lot of ways, and it's great because I need to be able to do this. So the other thing is that I've got so much energy moving through my body constantly. I don't fall asleep till 4 or 5 in the morning, and thankfully I don't have a job right now that I have to go to early in the morning. So I don't know what I would do if that were the case. So what's interesting is that I've had the last couple of months to kind of let this process happen without having to go to a job. I'm still looking for one, but it's actually interesting that this worked out this way because I couldn't go through this if I had a job. It just would be really, really interesting, challenging. So a lot of times I'm woken up in the middle of the night with all this energy rushing through my body, and I wake up and all my chakras are open. The energy is just pouring out of my body, and I feel it pouring out the top of my head a lot, and it's almost always pouring out through my heart chakra the most, and that feels it's like a warm sensation, but it's a cool sensation. It's not hot heat. It's like I can't explain it. It's not hot or cold. It feels like warmth, like heart warmth, not physical fire, hot warmth. It's really energizing too. And the other interesting thing is I'm starting to see with my eyes closed. I experienced that once a long, long time ago, and this is interesting because I'll close my eyes and then I'll start seeing things, and I think that my eyes are actually open, and then I go to close them, and they're already closed, and then I open them, and then I see things more clearly. But at first, when they're closed, I start seeing things, and it was confusing at first, but then I remembered, oh, the energy's going through my body. That's normal. That happens. I'm not worried about it, but it's a little on the interesting side when that happens because it can be very confusing. Even for me, I'm used to this kind of stuff. I have prophetic dreams all the time. I see things. I know things. Like half of it, I don't even share with anybody just because there's really no point. I don't want to give suggestions to people about how their life should go. I like to encourage people to live their life, according to their dreams. And what I see may or may not be what the end result is going to be for them, because they always have the choice of changing it. But yeah, even for me, it's been interesting. And also the other night, I felt the energy in my body gather really intensely in my root chakra, and it's almost like it started really small, like this, and it gathered and gathered and gathered and gathered and gathered, and it built up this pressure in the root, and it didn't feel like anything I've ever felt before. It's not like, oh, I feel this energy in my body. A lot of people say, oh, I feel your energy, and I feel the energy. And no, this was it's at a very physical presence. I could tell it was there, and it was pressurized, and it kind of expanded, 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 and then it pulsed and contracted, and it shot straight out the bottoms of my feet. And of course, I felt the energy shooting out the bottoms of my feet too. Energy is taken in and released through the feet, so it makes perfect sense. But then a couple seconds later, I felt that same energy build up in my in the area of the solar plex chakra, and it did the same thing. It started really small, and it built up and up and up and up and up, and the pressure was there. I mean, if you've ever felt the pressure where you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom now, that's what the pressure feels like. Not the same sensation, the same body parts, but that type of pressure where it just builds up and up and up, and you're like, oh my gosh, this needs to release, otherwise, like, oh, it's going to be crazy. It did that, and then it pulsed, contracted, and it shot up my spine, all the way up into my head, and then I started seeing flashes of bright white light, and that was really interesting. And there was also a little minor discharge of electricity that went through my body down through my feet again. And knowing the basic principles of electricity, there's always there are always two charges. You have to have a grounding charge, and in this case, the energy went up and the grounding went down. Now, it is possible to ground into the, quote, ether, but I won't get into that. That's a whole other subject. But that is my experience so far. And like I said, in the last 2 months, maybe 3, I would say closer to 2. If I said 3 months before, I'm going to have to say 2, because all of March and all of April, and only a little bit of February maybe, but March and April, the 2 main months where this has been the most intense, and I've been doing my disciplines really often. And the other discipline that I've been doing is Samskara Dahana Kriya, and that is a discipline for completion, and it works really powerfully. I highly recommend it. It's one of the fastest ways to clear out all of your crap, so to speak. The only thing with doing this work is that you have to be prepared to let go of everything. Everything, literally. Whatever it is, whatever the number one thing is that you are holding on to that you do not want to let go of, that's what you're going to have to let go of. And it's not because what you're holding on to isn't correct for you. It might be. It might come back to you later. Like maybe it's a house. Maybe you get picked up and you have to move away from where you live, or you have to leave a relationship or a job. It doesn't matter what it is. All that matters is you're transforming the energy in your relationship with attachment, and it's actually not that hard. Problem is, we get too caught up in our minds. Well, I point here, but our minds really are not in our head. Our minds are out here in the environment, making up our energy field. But yeah, if you're too caught up in your mind, then this work is going to be a lot more challenging. But it's definitely worth it. So that's my experience, and I'll probably be posting another video pretty soon if I have any more experiences to share. Thanks for watching.